Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to pass it over to Maria from MNP.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Clayton, and I am a Senior Manager at MNP, working out of our Cambridge office. MNP is a leading national accounting, tax, and business consulting firm in Canada. We proudly serve and respond to the needs of our clients in the public, private, and non-for-profit sector. Through partner-led engagements, we provide collaborative, cost-effective approach in doing business and personalizing strategies to help organizations succeed across the country and around the world. This morning, I am pleased to welcome a coworker from MNP, Matt Bennett, who will be discussing taking the bookkeeping to the cloud and optimizing financial processes through technology. Matt has been a member of MNP's cloud accounting team in Burlington, helping the private enterprise clients. Matt works one-to-one with small to medium-sized businesses and helps their bookkeeping, and are seeking to leverage new technologies through the cloud accounting app ecosystems. Matt's services includes outsourcing accounting, bookkeeping services, migrate of accounting systems, connect operational applications to financial management system. He excels at building and growing teams, business development, and strategic partnership. Prior to MNP, Matt was a national leader of strategic partnerships at a developer of financial management and tax preparation software solutions. Please help me welcome Matt.
Thank you for the kind words, Maria. So just give me one moment while I share my screen. And yeah, I'm looking forward to going over a few of the trends that we're seeing with some of our clients and providing some tips and tricks and giving you all some insight into some of the different technology that we work with, and also some of the trends that we see that may be coming up in the next couple of years here. So here we go. And if somebody could just confirm that they're able to see the screen, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I can see it. It looks good, Matt.
All right, thank you. And I believe there's a chat box within the Zoom meeting. So if you have any questions or if you want to interrupt, that's the way to do it. We can definitely keep this as open as possible. I know it's a little bit challenging when we're doing this virtually, but you know, I always find interaction and engagement to be helpful for everybody who's attending, and always open to getting interrupted and having a discussion if anything comes up. So yeah, I guess the overarching topic today is taking your business to the cloud. But the way that I've broken down some of the topics that I'll approach today is really cloud computing and how that's affected the way that we work. And when I say we, I mean us as far as MNP and our clients, but also business owners. Business owners are working with their staff and their clients. I know we've all probably at this point have a lot of COVID fatigue, but it has really had an impact in this area when it comes to technology and business operations and the financial function. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit, as well as taking your business to the cloud and the strategies that we put in place. So if you've already done that, there may be some fine tuning that you can take from some of the roadmaps that I provide. And if not, it'll give you some things to consider in doing so. And then I mentioned in the future, like what we see is areas that will impact our service line, but also business owners, small business owners in Canada, is the topic of open banking. It was a bit more of a hot topic a couple of years ago, but I see it coming back a little bit more in the news now that you know, we're starting to stabilize a little bit when it comes to the economics and the market that we're working in. So thanks for the introduction, Maria. Basically, just to give a little bit more of a background on myself, I had an opportunity early in my career, I guess, in the early 2000s, to be part of a startup company. It was a very basic type of business, but we sold security systems. And I remember one of the first meetings that we were in, we were all set up as subcontractors in this group. But one of the first meetings we were in, the founder had his mother was actually an accountant. And so because we were subcontractors, she gave us a lesson on, accounting 101 and how to make sure that you're tracking things appropriately. So, from a tax standpoint and being able to file that. And I was thinking to myself, what am I getting myself into here? Why did, do I, because I didn't have an accounting background at that time. So from there, so that business is actually still around, energy security systems in Edmonton. But from there, that wasn't quite a fit for me. I ended up moving over actually to the software company that we were doing our accounting on, which is QuickBooks, and consulting with small business owners, more in the enterprise space. But how do you build back office with different applications that can communicate with each other and also that you can access from different locations? And that technology wasn't as readily available. It was a little bit more expensive than it is now. After that, I moved from Edmonton to Vancouver to consult with accounting firms. So small startup to cloud or to boutique accounting firms on these new pieces of technology, how you can implement them for your clients and business owners, ways that you can sort of market and price these services. And then I moved here to Toronto to work with national accounting firms, and M&P was actually a client of mine, and I eventually joined to work on this cloud accounting practice. So a little bit of a background on myself, but moving on into the topics that we're going to be covering today and cloud computing and how we work. So I'm going to get Caitlin, if you can put up the first poll here. I'm going to get into some of these trends that you've probably already witnessed and talk a little bit about how that affects the way that we work, but also the way that you're working with your clients. So the questions there, great with technology, always looking to test it out, pretty good. I'm able to find solutions with what I need, hesitant to use new technology unless I really have to, or I'm just not going to do it unless I'm really forced to, but I don't want to change the way I'm working. So I'm just going to give that a few more seconds to see the answers roll in. I believe everyone can see the poll and the answers as they're rolling in. So this is interesting. Actually, I like the how this is live. All right. So the vast majority would say they're very good with technology and able to find solutions for what they need. So that's awesome. If that's the mindset of when we come into, or when we're working with clients that have that type of mindset, I always find it to be very productive, because a lot of this is new, and anytime you're working in a new environment or with new applications, you have to be understanding that it may some of the ways that these applications are developed, they're released to the market before they're complete. And if you're okay with that, and if you're okay with working in with products that are in a development stage and being part of that by providing feedback and impacting the way that their products go, then that's where you'll see true benefit. And it looks like we have quite a few people in that area, but really it takes all, but it's interesting to see that that's how things are skewed for today. So again, please interrupt if you see anything or if you have any questions. So the three, I mean, you probably, a lot of you have seen this, experienced this. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but the three major technology trends that we see, the mobile side of things. So, I mean, we're all using mobile phones now. I don't think that's, that's table stakes at this point. It's gotten to the point now where mobile phones, like flip phones, are coming back. I saw a few advertisements for flip phones, and I remember, in the early 2000s, I actually liked those, but they went away. So you can sort of see that they've been around. This has been around so long, it's starting to even like recreate or have like retro ideas for that area. on the cloud side, you're saying in 2022, 20% of businesses will own no OT assets. What is that? Well, an OT asset is basically a piece of technology that's part of a digital infrastructure. So what does that mean? I mean, we're talking like a digital point of sale system, a scheduling system, an inventory count, time cards. I went into Old Navy a couple of days ago, and they were using this little device to do scanning and pickups for online orders in store. So that's what that means, is basically the trend of 20% of businesses having not using that is that's pretty low. And when it comes into social, I actually think this is going to be going a little bit quicker. It says in 2024 it'll replace email for 20% of business users. I had to join Instagram. I'm not a big social media person. I didn't really want to, but I really had to join that platform because so many of the new businesses in my neighborhood are using that to market and sell their products. And anytime I looked up a website, it wasn't even a website. It was a link to their Instagram profile. And I mean, that's accelerated through for businesses. How do you get in touch with consumers of all ages? And I won't get into TikTok or anything like that, but those will always be developing and changing. So those are the mega technology trends that we see. So I mean, this is the workplace that I'm most familiar with. What a lot of us have seen, and that's probably not where we are right now. So will we get back there? Probably. I think it'll always be a little bit different, but right now, most people are, I'm actually in my home right now, or in different shared workspaces. But the idea of our work environment is, even though we're not in the same room, we're actually a lot more connected than we used to be. So it's all through the devices that we're working with, cell phones mainly, different tablets, but it's what's behind that phone and the cloud, I guess you could say, and where all this information and data is stored. And we're using those devices to access it. But that's how we are connecting in a professional and in a social way now. So I guess this is still up here. Cool. Sorry about that. So Caitlin, can you put up the next poll? I'm just going to talk a little bit about the applications and kind of how that's changed. So I just want to find out from people here, how many business apps do you use? 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 plus, or what's an app? 10 plus, yeah. All right, so most here we're seeing 0 to 5, some 5 to 10, 10 plus. So the applications, I'm just going to pull that off there so it's not in front of everything this time. So I mentioned before, I had worked with a lot of small businesses at the QuickBooks Enterprise as a consultant in that ecosystem, or with those different applications. How things have changed now, the idea of API. So API is, technically it's an application programming interface, but really what that is a way for data to move from one app and being able to move or map into another app. So whether that's your bank account, your point of sale system, scheduling, bill payments, payroll, accounting, document storage, having that information move from one to the other. If you want to think of something that you may use personally, is how is, if you are using Instagram and Facebook, when you're posting something on Instagram and having that also then post into Facebook. Different applications using the same data, but doing what they do well, and then opening up their programs to work with other applications that do what they do well. So a point of sale system is, really good at processing credit cards and taking in that information, pulling inventory from a sale. but how does that then move into an accounting system so that you can report that back out? So that's the idea of API and apps. And so I mentioned the way we work and how all of that has changed. We show the picture of people in an office. Now, we're connecting through, probably from home or different locations now, but it's also because of the way these applications are able to share data, it's affected the way that we work with our clients. So when I say we, in this point, I'm talking about accounting firms. So I'm just using this as an example, but as I'm going through this, I'd like you to just think about how your business has changed over the years and the way that you're interacting, with your customers and your staff, your vendors. But basically, the old way was you would have a laptop or a computer, maybe a network on site, and you would have these data devices like a CD-ROM, hard disk, or hard copy. You would be getting this information, maybe compiling it yourself on your computer, putting it into one of these formats, and then giving it to your accountant so that they can basically reconcile and produce you financial reports based on the information at that period of time. Now, because of the way this information and these applications are connected, the financial data and the documents are all the same. So we're all working off of the same data source. We interact with clients kind of in that with that same concept of, you have your device, whether it's your laptop, your tablet, or your mobile phone. That's all a way to see the same information that we're working off of. So it's a why that's a big shift is because it's all the same data source. It helps us be able to spot issues before they become a big problem. We're not working off of old information. And it also is it gives us the ability to work with our clients in a way to say, okay, this person needs to get paid now. The ability to work better from a cash flow standpoint. I won't go too deep on that, but I just wanted to use this as an example to show how the change in the technology that we're using has changed a little bit of the workflow, but also how that also then relates back to the way that we're accessing information and data. So I'm just going to pause there for a minute. I haven't seen any questions come through, but Caitlin, if you could put up the other poll here. So it's poll 3. So this is, I'll just move this over so people can see it. So I want to understand a little bit about, COVID and how that did change the way you operate, with your staff or your clients or your suppliers, none of the above or all of the above. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix. I'm actually very curious to hear, if possible, from those that didn't have any change. That's very interesting to me. Staff, clients, yeah, all of the above. Just give it another couple seconds here. We have a couple people that haven't answered. Okay. All right, so we have an interesting skew here. So a lot for 55 for all of the above, 18 for clients, 18 for none of the above. Again, very interested to hear about that, and 9% for staff. So that's yeah, that's interesting. So what we have seen, and this is sourced from the Gartner report. So the Gartner report is basically a report that's put out independently that is I guess a research publication for technology. So a lot of technology consulting companies will use the Gartner just as a source to get a lot of their information, for those that aren't familiar with it. But the information that was produced from there is that 69% of the businesses, small to medium and enterprise businesses have been forced to accelerate their digital business initiatives. And we'll get a little bit more in depth on what that actually is. But really, I mean, we think about, staff not being able to go into offices, not being able to meet face-to-face with clients, storefronts being closed, restaurants only being able to offer delivery. So when I think of the businesses that we work with, and some of those that were able to not just survive but to actually succeed, the way that they were able to do that a lot of times was implementing the right technology, or being able to understand how to bring their products to their clients in a new way, or take the products that they had and kind of pivot and give them a different flavor. So like a restaurant storefront that would turn into like a market or bodega type of thing. A retail store that would push more of their sales online. And because the technology now is so readily available and accessible and really not that expensive, those that knew how to work with it were able to make strategic decisions in a very quick and an efficient way. I mean, you think of us too, the result we're seeing is a major adoption in the use of cloud tools. We're on a Zoom meeting now. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Zoom, a couple of years ago. I think I've used every virtual meeting application possible, Teams, Google Hangouts, whatever there is. I mean, but what that's done is it's accelerated the comfort level for people in working in this environment, forcing it in some ways, but also even from the schools and having kids being forced to learn virtually for a while. How do you set that up? How do you set up your home office? How can you have a good way to communicate with your team? Through some people who are using even WhatsApp or Slack, but also how do you communicate with your clients and your vendors when you can't just be face to face, which is always going to be, I think, there's always something about that face to face and in person interaction that will be a bit more quicker and easier than virtual. But this is the positive aspect of the virtual meetings is you can have we all know this, you don't have to commute. It's a lot easier to just pick up and join in. So just expanding on some of those initiatives, I mean, from a cash flow and survival standpoint, when businesses were increasing their digital strategy, increased investment in digital marketing, online platforms. So I mentioned, how do you get to your client in a quicker way? Taking advantage of technology to stay competitive. Basically, that idea of being able to understand if there's a breakdown in the supply chain. Is there a better options to source locally? We saw a lot more for retail stores, local products on virtual shelves, which is a little, it's kind of funny when you think about it, that you'd be selling more local products, but it would be virtual rather than actually on a store shelf. But modernizing technology is part of those initiatives. Using the data that is stored in these different applications to give you better insights on your business, increasing the security of the of your operations and finance by having experts take control of that. Online meeting platforms, chat groups, online networking, but also the digital acceleration, understanding like how to build an environment that will be acceptable for the change in the workforce. A lot of people, I didn't get to put this up as a poll, but think of people that as friends or colleagues that literally moved out of the city and don't plan on returning. I know some people that changed careers once they got comfortable in working and working virtually just based on the fact that they the businesses they were working for weren't accommodating, but others were. Yeah, and you see increased automation of IT, labor, business operations. So these are all trends that were happening, but because of the pandemic, it just kind of forced a lot of this to move on. A lot of people who or businesses that were on the fence, took that strategy and accelerated it. So when you think about taking your business to the cloud, so we first talked about, what that is, how people and businesses are interacting online, how applications are sharing data, how businesses have changed or accelerated their strategies to leverage some of these tools and workflow. But like, how do you actually do that? So many businesses are probably already somewhat in the cloud, whether you're doing online banking or websites, any type of digital marketing. But what I want to share a little bit here in this area is how some of the factors that we keep in mind when making this move. So if you've already, again, like if you've already made some of this move and you have some applications in the cloud, how could you consider tightening up that engine from a financial standpoint? And I'll also give some example of tech stacks and services and workflow that we put together for some of our clients, just so that you can think of your own business and some of the gaps you may have in your process. So after today's session, if all I'm hoping for is that you take a little bit of time to evaluate current systems and just think of, are there, am I duplicating work from one area to another, and is there maybe a better way of doing so? So when we're working with businesses that are looking to move to the cloud, these are the main factors. A lot of you have already heard this, but the idea of the three stakeholders there: people, process, and technology. And it really is a balancing act. Whenever there's a change made in one, there's usually an unintended consequence in the other. So you may be saving time in one area. Maybe you're saving time when it comes to counting your inventory and doing your ordering, but that could be creating a bigger drag on your maybe somebody who's doing the accounting. So just understanding, like, when you're making decisions to move into using different pieces of technology, it's likely going to affect the process and the people. So how do we solve for that, or put in strategy in place to make it as smooth as possible? And it's not always going to be completely smooth. There's usually a learning process there. From a people standpoint, we make sure to have onboarding and training sessions so that the staff is understanding new process, new workflow. Also making sure that they're comfortable and part of the process, and not just being forced to work in a new way. And by doing that, being very clear on what people's roles are and what their responsibilities are within the organization. From a process standpoint, it's really workflow it's almost kind of a big buzzword that we have around here, but it is workflow. So, how does information come in from a client? How do you market to them? But like on the back end, who's picking up an order? How does that get processed? When are you making an order? If you're getting an invoice in, but all those back office workflows, they're going to be affected anytime that you're changing out a piece of technology. And then from the technology standpoint, things to consider, what's the cost? We work with a lot of businesses in the startup phase to medium to large businesses, but the startup phase, we'll see a lot of businesses that are using free software, which is fine for them at that time. But then, they have to at some point make a decision to put in something that will allow them to scale up to a different level. And just knowing how to plan for that and when to make those changes we also come across businesses that haven't done that, and they're still using basic free software, and sort of it becomes very hard then in the future to put in a I'd say like an integrated or a single system, if you have all of these different pieces of free software, and also accessibility. That's important. You know, is it easy to, you know, from a language standpoint, and where you can access the programs, where's the data stored, and the security aspect. So these are all factors that you just want to consider when making any types of change like that. So again, this is just an example of how we would take those ideas and implement it for a client. I'm sharing this with you just so that you can think of you know, yourself, your business, but also maybe the way that you work with your clients, and how that how those, if any of those changes have been made along the way. You know, what were some of the pain points there, and can they be solved? So, I mean, we're an accounting firm. I mentioned, or Maria had mentioned before, that we do a lot of outsourced accounting for our clients. So it's basic bookkeeping. So, but what we're doing is providing a set of services to our clients, and then building a technology stack with these applications that can move information around from a financial function to make it easy to work with, and going back to that original concept of a single source of data, a single source of truth. So we take the services we're using, take a source the correct technology that we know will work and speak together properly, and then produce those financial statements for our clients. So sometimes they'll come from a point of pain where it's you know, the financial information they're getting isn't appropriate. Sometimes it's that they just want to move into the cloud, and that's again, like, we try to design this so that it makes sense. What is showing here from a data flow standpoint is that the business owner is interacting with a bill payment system, a receipt capture tool, their bank, and as well as a payroll system, and all that information gets pushed into their accounting system, which they can access and review, and our team helps compile reporting for them. So that's all that this is explaining there. When we think about people, process, and technology, this is an actual example of that previous slide. And then if we dig down even deeper on the process side, you know, what does that workflow look like from different aspects of the back office, whether it's accounts payable, payroll, or bill payments? So these are just some of the ways that we try to communicate this change to our clients. So when you're thinking of moving to the cloud, if you're doing it on your own, like, who are your clients? It could be, you know, you're actually people paying you, but it's also your staff, it's also your vendors. So what are the implications of those changes? And so what we do is we map this out to try to make it as clear as possible, roles and responsibilities, information coming in from one area, where it's pushing to another. So I'll show you this next one here. This is an example of, I would say, that like a balanced ecosystem for food and beverage or restaurant franchise. So the idea behind this diagram is, again, being able to take different systems and connecting them so that there's a reduction in data entry, and also automating, you know, orders if possible. So you have a customer coming in, either dining in or ordering through our website, you know, Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes. They're trying to buy something that is, so they're interacting either with their phone or in person for that point of sale system. That point of sale system is containing information about the orders coming in. So inventory counts. If somebody orders a hamburger, you know, how much beef is going to be left after that order. And when you get to a certain level, how does that notify the kitchen manager so that they place an order with that supplier? Over on that side, once the order for the supplier is in place, how do you actually pay that? So how can we put in a system that makes it easy for the business owner to actually pay that bill and then receive the order? So we mapped out this workflow as well from a staff standpoint. They're interacting with the point of sale system for their scheduling, their tips, understanding who should be staffed, who's taking care of different tables. And then that produces into their payroll and actually money going into their pocket. In this scenario, we connected the bank account to the accounting system and also provided a receipt capture document collection tool to the client. But the whole ecosystem here is balanced from taking into account the customer, the staff, the business owner, and then the operations, the vendors, and then the ability to produce financial statements as well. So it looks complicated. I mean, but it's not. Like it's actually a lot harder to diagram than it is to work with. The reason being is because a lot of this information is moving automatically from one of these systems to another. So initially, what you'll see in a lot of restaurants, as an example, is the point of sale system isn't speaking to their scheduling system. It's not speaking to their inventory system, and it's not speaking to the accounting system usually as well. So there's a lot of paper, there's a lot of collecting of orders, there's confusion sometimes in the kitchen, over ordering. So this is just an example of a specific industry, but when you think of your business, map it out like this. And I like to start with the customer, because that's usually the most important. How are they paying you, and how are they interacting with you? How are you collecting that money? And then from your staff, how are you making sure your staff is going to be able to support them, and you have the right supplies to do so. All right. So any questions so far? Anybody want to challenge some of the things I'm saying?
Doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment, but if anyone does,
Okay.
you can either put it in the chat or raise your hand and I can unmute you.
All right. So the last topic I wanted to touch on today is open banking. So, what is open banking? I mean, open banking is basically it's a global movement to empower consumers with control of their financial data. So this control gives consumers or business owners the freedom to share their personal or business data with third-party companies that you can then use that data to provide alternative financial services. So that makes it easier for consumers or business owners to move, manage, and control their money. This should and has been proven to provide the consumer with greater choice in personal financial services and products. The concept of open banking, it's referenced in Canada sometimes as consumer directed finance, so CDF. You may have heard of that. But basically, I mean, I think the easiest way to explain it is, why is the idea of open banking important? It's not a completely accurate example, but the idea of a company like Wealthsimple coming in and being able to provide an alternative way of investing. So it's not for everybody, but what it does is it creates more competition, and it creates more options for consumer or business owner. But why I want to touch on it is because in Canada, we're always a little bit more conservative when it comes to the adoption of cloud-based financial tools. So we've seen that. I had seen it personally with QuickBooks when I was at that company, and the way that businesses in the UK and Australia had implemented cloud-based version of QuickBooks, and that was really pushed by company Xero that we partnered very closely with as well. But we would always talk about how you could kind of see what was happening next by looking at the UK or Australia to see what their businesses are doing. And why I want to touch on it here is because you'll see that these changes have already happened in some of those regions and are starting to come to Canada in the next couple of years. So this slide is this image is a little old. It's from 2019. I couldn't find anything more updated, but basically, I wanted to put it out there to give you something to think about. You know, some countries are regulating and putting standards around this. It's different country by country. Unfortunately, Canada is lagging a little bit behind on this. But if you are interested in learning more, I'm going to provide some resources that you can read up on it. But right now in your traditional bank, you have the core systems you're using, the product lines they're offering, and the different channels they have. But in the bank of the future or the open banking platform, that idea of using APIs. So it's kind of that same concept. But for those unfamiliar with the movement, it started with the idea that the ownership of banking data resides with the individual or the company and not the bank. So therefore, the data should be provided in that manner, consumable by the individual or by the company. In Canada, the open banking platform was introduced in 2018 in that budget and has since been developing. So their introductory statement in their article titled "Opening Banking 101" is this: anytime you buy something, transfer money, make a deposit, or do any other banking activity, you generate a financial transaction, a piece of data. Open banking empowers you to share that data with a broader range of financial service providers of your choosing to gain access to innovative products and services that help you in managing finances and making financial decisions and more. So actually, Ernst & Young has a great series of articles on open banking, and they've compiled an open banking opportunity index. Unfortunately, Canada comes in 8 out of 10 when it comes to the readiness for adopting open banking, sitting behind the UK, China, and the US. Well, I mean, we are ranked middle of the pack for innovation and environment. We have a lot of fintech companies originating from Canada, but the adoption isn't quite there. I think, interestingly enough, one of the biggest issues is the payment system. So what's powering the actual moving of money? I mean, the quickest way to move money is always cash, right? I give you $1 out of my hand, you have it in your hand, that transaction is completed. But when you're working with digital transactions, as described before, it's not quite so simple. So, we benefit as consumers from a modern payment system, instant transfers through Interac. Really, that's probably the quickest. I mean, that is the quickest non-cash transaction. Payments Canada it's developing a real-time payment system, but it's a few years away from going live. Cloud accounting platforms that we use, like Xero or QuickBooks Online, they leverage these concepts. So the ability to give us real-time information of a transaction so that we can try to provide our clients with real-time financial information. But really, until these processes are still not quite completely perfect because of the fact that the banks haven't opened up to really provide, again, consumers and business owners with the ability to choose who they're sharing their data with. So why is that important? But the reason is when it's in place, and we see this in other geographies, your products will change. So the ability to get lines of credit, applying for different loans, different types of payment structures, that all would change. There would be more opportunities for financial technology companies to build tools to support those types of transactions. So you see it in those other regions where there's been a bit of an explosion of even new financial institutions, and more competition should always benefit the consumer. And right now, a lot of in Canada, a lot of the ways that we get our financial information from our clients is through data scraping, and third parties are doing this for some of the accounting platforms, and it's not that it's not secure, but it's not the choice of the business owner to do that. It's the bank that's deciding this is how we want to operate. So again, it's something to think about when if you hear it in the news, that's what it's referencing. And again, it's still pretty new to the market. I think this will develop a little bit more over the next couple of years. But we're starting to see the beginning steps here with some of the financial institutions. And we don't partner with any specific, but I did want to just show a couple of the beginning steps that we're seeing in Canada. So CIBC a couple of years ago announced its smart banking platform. So if you're a CIBC client, you can now have your accounting system, if it's Xero or QuickBooks Online or your Ceridian payroll, it'll connect directly into your bank. So you're not moving money around, but what it's doing is it's giving a very accurate representation of the transactions that are going through your bank, whereas the screen scrape there could be error in some of those. So that's a big step that we've seen. Another one from RBC, they have a couple years ago, RBC launched a direct integration with same idea with QuickBooks Online and RBC Express. But even more recent, they actually purchased a fintech startup. The name of it was WayPay. It's a Canadian company out of Burlington. So WayPay was built on digital payments. So how can if I have a bill that a vendor has given me, how can I actually move that money and have that digital record reconcile with other systems, my accounting system as an example. So they bought that application, rebranded it to RBC PayEdge. We do use that with our clients because it is backed by a bank, so we know it's going to be secure, and it works with the ecosystem and the different applications that we use. But that's just an example. Like, I think you'll see these financial institutions will start to move a little bit more into that space if they start to embrace the idea of open banking. It's always a question of security, but it's like if you're interested in knowing more about it, I'd recommend going to the Open Banking Initiative Canada website, and I'll put that in the resources here so you can look them up. But basically, the OBIC, it exists to develop a market-driven open banking framework in Canada that will be consumer empowered for Canada. So it's a not-for-profit organization. They have a lot of different thought leaders and from technology and regulation, and they're trying to create the structure and the regulations, give that sort of recommendation to those who are putting in policy, so that it is secure and that it does have the consumer and the business owner being able to control their financial data. So I mentioned a little bit about some of the applications that we use. If you want to look, these are kind of our team's cheat sheet when it comes to building, like the example of the restaurant. So what we'll usually use is either the QuickBooks Online app marketplace or the Xero app marketplace. So those addresses are in there. there's hundreds of applications out there for different aspects of the operations side, inventory management, point of sale, scheduling, payments, like almost everything you can think of. So, you know, it can be overwhelming at first, but, you know, if you're interested in tightening up a certain aspect of your business, you can go there, watch a few videos and get some ideas. The FinTech Growth Syndicate in Canada is a great, amazing resource. They basically, it's a aggregation of all of the FinTech companies in Canada. So it's a great news source. They compile articles and share what's happening really in this space. And it's all Canadian. It's all ran out of Ontario as well, which is pretty interesting. And then also, I mentioned before, the Open Banking Initiative, not for profit. So those are the resources that I wanted to leave you with, because it'll give you some, you know, if you're interested in some of the topics that were discussed today, if you want to do it yourself, you got a couple at the top. And if you just want to learn a little bit more and be on top of, you know, the news, those are some of the areas that we go to get our information and help our clients. All right, so I'm not sure how we'll share that out, but we'll find a way to share out these links to those who attended. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time. I know it's everybody's busy, and I'm hoping that the topics that, you know, I went through today were of impact. You're able to take something, at least a couple pieces of information shared. And like I said, for what I'd like you to do, if possible, is just take a step back and think of the last couple of years and any of the changes that you've made to your business and some of the pain points you had. And, you know, are they resolved? If they are resolved, great. If not, you know, dig around in some of the links there to see if there's a way to connect some of these tools that you're using. And yeah, this is just to basically share that some of the materials here things are changing rapidly. So we share this as a snapshot of where we see things now, but obviously it could change in the future. So yeah, we just have to share that out. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And yeah, I was wondering, I haven't seen any questions come in yet, but if you have any, put them in the chat. If not, you can add me on LinkedIn as well if you ever want to talk about any of these topics. It's just Matthew Bennett on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email. I think we'll be sharing my contact information as well. Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as for those links that you shared, if you want to send me an email with the links, and then we can send out a thank you email to the attendees that joined, and I can add those links to the email as well.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. And it doesn't look like anyone has any questions at the time. So thank you for doing this. And I hope everyone has a good day and enjoys their Thanksgiving weekend.